Okay, well, welcome everybody to our next episode of Business Resilience Now. And thank you so much for taking your time to join us here today. Welcome to Mounfiq. Nice to see you. You're looking lovely today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Love the
Thank you.
colors. Looks
Yeah.
great. And nice to have you here. And so for those of you who've been tuning in, Business Resilience Now, in a lot of ways was a response to COVID-19. We are all aware that COVID-19 has made a significant impact on the world in so many ways, right? I mean, number one, and always most important, is in people's health. And for any of you who might be tuning in today who have been impacted either directly or through your family, your friends, our hearts go out to you because, there's nothing more important than health. Health is wealth, and it's the truest and the most rich form of wealth. But beyond that, I think we would all agree that COVID-19 has had lots of other impacts, from economic to financial to social to political. And of course, in this show, we're not going to get political because that's tricky. But definitely we have been taking a lot of time to look at economic impact of COVID and also the idea of business resilience because there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. I mean, 40 million Americans have lost their job. That's a big number. I mean, all of Canada only has about 37 million people. So when you hear 40 million, that's a lot. And even here in Canada, we've got 8 to 9 million people who have claimed the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. So that tells you that there's been a lot of impact. Those numbers don't even begin to cover the impact on small, medium-sized businesses right across the country. So what we've been doing is getting people together. And one of the things that's so true about COVID-19 and the impact of it, and probably you've heard this before, but I'll say it again, we might all be in the same storm, but we're definitely not all in the same boat. Some people have gone through COVID-19 and it's actually been something that's made them incredibly rich, where, the actual Forbes magazine said that the 25 richest people in the world, their net worth has gone up by $255 billion since the
Wow.
middle of March, which is just crazy. So the rich are getting richer, but we also understand that the poor are getting poorer. And, the truth of the matter is that, there's a lot of us putting our hands up in the air and we're saying, what is the solution? How are we going to get through this, right? I don't have any judgment towards someone who's honestly looking for answers in the middle of this tough time. And I don't want to in any way position us as having all of the answers by any means, but
Mm.
I do believe from the core of my being that the solution is always in conversations. In other words, diverse perspectives, listening to what different people think often is one of the greatest joys of a democracy, and one of the problems we have right now in our world is this idea that we're trying to get everyone to say certain things, and that's a problem because if I censor and limit what people can say, then I might not have the opportunity to hear an idea that can change my life. Now, I'm certainly not talking about hate speech by any means. I'm actually just talking about the sharing of ideas
Mm.
that broaden our horizons and our outlook. And so, today, I think we have one of the finest guests we've ever had. It's my real privilege and pleasure to welcome Mounfiq Abu to our show today. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of Mounfiq's bio because I think it's important that we have some context to see quite an accomplished woman we have on our show today. And, Mounfiq's story is totally one of resilience, excellence, and triumph over adversity. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about that. But she's also one of my clients in the Health, Wealth, and Wise coaching program. Mounfiq is a mindset reset and a self-leadership coach with over 14 years of experience. She helps working mothers develop a growth mindset to lead themselves to transform their pain into power. Isn't that awesome, right? I'm getting excited just reading that, and maximize their potential and actualize their purpose in their professional and personal lives through innovative mindset reset programs. She's also done a lot of work with organizations to educate their workforce on higher effectiveness, leadership, resilience, and higher productivity skills. And she had a real tough time, in a lot of ways getting here. She spent a number of years in the banking industry. And so, for any of you moms who might be watching this today, let me tell you, Mounfiq, she gets it way more than I could get it. Being a mom, being a partner in a relationship, in a marriage, also juggling a business, juggling professional responsibility. So on that note, welcome, Mounfiq. It's so great to have you today.
Thank you so much, Abe, for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
That's so great to have you. And so, Mounfiq, I can read the words on the paper, but
Yeah.
I sure would love for you to just share a little bit of your story, with the audience today. Right now you're living in Halifax, which is a beautiful city on the eastern side of Canada, but you haven't always been there. And so why don't you
Yeah.
just share a little bit of your journey with us here today?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Abe, for having me. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this webinar and being part of this conversation and being part of the Business Resilience Now webinar. So I'm so excited to be here. As Ava said correctly, I didn't always live in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I just moved here last year in May of 2019. So I moved here from Nigeria, and I own a business with my husband. We are into frozen seafood export here in Canada, and we export frozen seafood to Nigeria, Africa. And I'm also a mindset reset and self-leadership coach. So the reason I got into coaching, I first of all started it when I was in the banking industry over 14 years ago. I started my coaching business because I realized that there was a gap in terms of the productivity of individuals in the workplace. A lot of people just do their jobs in a monotonous way, just looking at the job description and just do it without adding some creativity, some personality, or proactivity to it. I realize the gap is in the sense of how they think and how they assimilate or try to evaluate a particular situation. I realized also that if you give two people the same particular task to deliver upon, two of them will probably, most of the time, have two different results, but it is the same solution that they're supposed to provide. One person will be able to provide that solution, and the other person may not. And my research showed me, when I was observing and reading about it, I realized that the difference in high performance and low performance is basically on the mindset, and also having the ability to lead yourself, especially in the workplace. A lot of people wait for the leaders or the supervisors or the directors or the managers to be the ones to start, then other people will follow. But I believe that with the right mindset, you'll be able to achieve more if you give yourself the opportunity. That is basically a little bit of why I'm a mindset reset coach. And because I was also pursuing excellence for my children and having a better opportunity of learning for them, having a better healthcare for my family, we decided to migrate to Canada last year. I have 4 children, and between the ages of 18 years old and 12, and they are currently here living with me in Nova Scotia. So we all moved here so they could get a better university to advance their own lives' ambition and goals. And we decided we should also come here and do our work so we could have easier access and be able to monitor and be with our family, our children specifically.
I
Yeah.
just love that story, and obviously there's even more to it, right? I remember when you were telling me a little bit of your story. Life hasn't always been easy for you, and I'm not in any way saying it's easy for you now,
Yeah.
but it sounds to me like you've known a fair amount of adversity throughout your life. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's inspiring to people to hear that.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Life hasn't been easy, and for me, my own story started from back home in Nigeria. I grew up with a lot of insecurity, low self-confidence, low self-esteem. I always had that negative voice in my head that was telling me I wasn't good enough. And it started basically from being bullied sometimes in school, having some negative comments said about me. I was really tall. I'm still tall. I'm like 5'10", but then it was unusual to see such a tall, lanky girl that wears glasses. I started wearing glasses when I was 8 years old, and I had this very big glasses on. So that really dealt with my self-confidence in a negative way. So I grew up that way, but being the first child of my mother, I was always told to do certain things and have be a role model for my siblings, but it didn't quite hit home for me. But my mother suffered in her life, and I had to watch her and take care of her. Her suffering was based on, apart from life circumstance, she also had a very weak heart. So she suffered a lot from issues with her heart, and she was sick. And when she fell ill, and it was fatal, she died in 1996. I had just turned 19 when she died. That is when my whole life shifted, because in 2 months in hospital, I had to watch my mom, that to me was the strongest person I'd ever known, become almost in a vegetative state and couldn't help herself. And I was the one that had to clean and bathe her and make sure she was okay. So at that time, because I had my own issues with confidence and all of that, when I saw my own mom now depending on me, now listening to me, now seeking, basically she really needed me at that time. I had to just wake up and try to see how I could push myself to stop seeing limitations and start seeing possibilities. So that is actually when my life story started. And up until this point, what I have seen and know for sure is that it's through adversity that you can grow. It's through adversity that you can find the opportunity to become a better person. I feel pain leaves with it a gift of resilience. Pain leaves with it a gift of being more introspective, more determined, have a sense of survival, have a sense of looking at things that you think are not possible, start seeing a hope at the end of the tunnel. Because I never knew I could live without my mom. I never knew I could now be the mom figure for my siblings who were so young and looking up to me to advise them, guide them. I had to be a confidant to my dad and have to make certain decisions that ordinarily as a teenager I shouldn't make. So that is basically where my own life story came from. But I'm seeing it, uh, I never had a sense of having self-pity and feeling sorry for myself. I always looked at it like an opportunity to grow. And I feel that is what everybody should try and do when they're encountering a difficult situation in life.
No, I love that, Mounfiq, and I appreciate that perspective so much. So, when we talk about adversity, and one of the things I'll often share to my clients is, that pain is mandatory, but misery is optional. And the reason I say that is because I am who I am today because of the pain I walked through, and many of you know my story or parts of it. And I could choose to be miserable. We could, any one of us, I guess, at any time could choose to get caught up into self-pity,
Mm,
play the blame game,
yeah,
point fingers, you name it. But I think what you're saying is, whatever it is,
yeah,
it is what it is, and you've got to take that pain,
yeah.
that adversity, and use it for your growth. So is that kind of what you've done throughout your whole life?
Throughout my life, that's what I've done. I got married at the age of 23. I was pretty young, and because I didn't have my mom there, it was really difficult to be able to adjust to motherhood, which happened in when I was 24. And I had my first child at 24, and I was fortunate to have been gotten an employment while I was very pregnant with him. I did the interview in Nigeria while working I have some clients here that are joining from Nigeria. There's something that happens after you finish your degree. They call it youth service and national youth service. You have to serve the country for 1 year and do like a nominal work, like a teaching job, or a company could hire you to work for them, more like an internship. So you do it for 1 year, paid a nominal salary. So while I was doing that 1 year national youth service or internship, for the benefit of everybody here in Canada, for them to understand the terminologies, that period is when I came upon an interview for a bank that was coming into the place where I was working to conduct an interview for new people, basically for us to write an exam and see if we could maybe be successful, they could hire us. So we were over 100 that wrote that test then, and I was fortunate to be among the 45 that passed. But it took a while for their process to come through, for them to start the actual interview process. But when that interview process started, I was already 8 months pregnant.
Wow.
Yes. So it was from the beginning, it's just that unusual situation. And the thing about me is that I hate limiting beliefs. I don't like you to tell me something is not possible because you think you want to tell me it's not possible and I haven't experienced it. I most of the time will not listen to you. I'll rather experience it and really find out for myself that it's not possible. So at that time, there was a myth in the banking industry that when you just get married, you may have to be put on a probation for 3 months. You may have to be put, I'm sorry, I think the call is
Okay.
my phone.
One of your clients calling you right now.
I need to turn off the phone. I think that's what I'll do. I'm
There
doing
you
that
go.
while I'm talking. I'm sorry I didn't.
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay, so basically, that was the myth. And they said when you just get married, you start the job, you will not be allowed to have a baby because banking is very tasking. Or they will tell you when you are even pregnant, you will not be allowed to actually do the job. So there was all that myth going on. So by the time I went in for the interview, other applicants or other people that were going to be interviewed like me were looking at me weird. What's this pregnant woman doing here? But I just kept pushing myself. And when I was invited in to answer questions, I tried not to look at myself any different because I was pregnant. And my husband was running around looking to see if he could find somebody in the bank to talk to because he was worried that I wouldn't be hired because I was pregnant. And by the time he eventually got someone, they told him I was the first person they hired, and we're just 7, So out of 45, just 7 of us were eventually hired, and I was the first. Looking
Wow.
pregnant, nobody else would talk to me in the interview. Everybody was looking at me like somebody that is like a plague. Don't talk to that woman. What is this pregnant woman doing here? So I just feel the reason people don't get ahead in life is because they put mental blocks in their path and they just feel this is the limit I would get to and I can't go beyond this limit. But I think that is a wrong perception. And basically that is really how I got into the banking industry. And I raised my 4 kids without a mom, without support, in a very stressful career. And at some point, now that I see that they're evolving to become who they want to be, I just want a better opportunity for them, because I know while I was in school, there was a lot of strike. There was sometime the lecturers are not paid and we didn't graduate on time. I ought to have graduated at 20. I graduated at 22.
Okay.
So because of all of that. So this is what I want to get and help other people to have that mindset of no limiting beliefs, so you can have that sense of everything is possible. I just feel the mind goes far and above what the body can do. As long as you're willing to push your mind based on the goals you have for yourself, everything is achievable for you if you try not to look at the limitations, because the limitation is there because you see it. But if you don't see it, it's not there.
So even now, I mean, you have really, I think, continued to exemplify that with your actions, and you're not just saying these words. I mean, you have 4 children now. You're a new immigrant to a brand new country.
Yeah.
You and your husband are running a seafood business in Atlantic Canada. You know, you have people working with you, you have people working for you, you have lots to juggle. And then on top of that, you've also been building your own coaching business. And so,
Mhm.
you know, tell me, like, I think you only have two hands, right? You know, I don't know if you've got more. How are you able to juggle all of this? You know, like, tell us about that.
Wow, it's really, really, it's not easy. I'm not going to pretend it's easy, but I think it entails you having, again, a growth mindset. I feel the mindset is 70% of the reason I'm able to do everything that I do. I do have bad days, and like everybody else, but I don't have a 24-hour bad day. I may have a bad situation that happened in the morning, but I try to look for something else to get me into a positive frame of mind. So I my children are a very big my children are a very big source of inspiration for me because they keep me grounded. And I know that, because for me, my business as a coach is, like you said before, I help working mothers to lead themselves. Okay, I help working mothers to lead themselves, to turn their pain into power, to help them to maximize their potential and to actualize their purpose in life. That's what I do. And basically, my focus for working mothers is because as working mothers, we inadvertently forget our own selves. We are always trying to juggle our jobs, to be the best at work and also be the best at home, but we do not look at ourselves. I watched my mom put us first in everything that she had to do. Her happiness, everything depended on us. And the pain I had felt when she passed away was she never lived to enjoy the fruit of her labor. You understand? She never lived to see me become the person she wanted me to become. And because of certain circumstances she was going through, she always had the fear that we will not grow up to be successful, or we will not grow up to be healthy, or certain things may happen. So she never did live to see that we overcame all the odds that she thought. So what helps me to juggle is trying to prioritize my self-care now more than before. I used to suffer a lot of mental breakdowns, a lot of depressive situations, not full blown depression, but because I know I missed her a lot. Most of the moments raising the kids, it was really hard trying to cope alone by myself. In Nigeria, we do get to hire nannies full time. So that helped when you get somebody you can trust. Sometimes you have somebody that is just not going to agree to your terms or just doesn't want to stay, then you see yourself keep changing people to help you with your kids, which is really difficult in terms of having that good foundation of trust that is needed for a child to grow up. So I feel the best way to go about it is to have a growth mindset, to have a priority that surrounds yourself with your family, to try to integrate your work life with your family life. I think work life balance is not a myth, it's something that you can practice if you are intentional about it. Back in the day in the bank in Nigeria, once it's 4 o'clock, I ask someone to go to my home and bring my kids to my workplace. And they spend the time with me from 4 p.m. because we sometimes close at 9 in the night. It's not the way it is here. We have really long hours. So they spend that time with me at work. They use that time to check in on their homework. I check in with them while working. At the weekends, if I have to work, there with me. So those kind of things help me to be able to achieve more than it seems that I could have been if I had a different outlook.
I love that. And you know, I think one of the things that is really you know, challenging today is, you know, that ability to juggle and that ability to make sure that you're, you know, not neglecting, you know, like your family or
Yeah.
your spouse or
Mm,
whomever.
yeah.
So you know, maybe take a moment if you could, and what are some of the challenges you're seeing with women today? You know, I mean, I think, you know, we have to acknowledge that men and women have different challenges. For anyone out there
completely.
You know, men have challenges. It's maybe not apparent sometimes, but men are really struggling today, particularly in North America. There's a lot of reasons for that. But you know what? Women have real challenges as well. And
Mhm,
often, like you said,
mhm,
are taking care of everyone else before they're
mhm,
taking care of themselves. And so maybe just speak as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, as a
mhm,
leader. What are
mhm.
some of the things you're seeing with women today?
Yeah. What I've seen, and I'll just use my clients as a classic example, is we don't know who we are. I just feel the sense of having self mastery is something that a lot of women lack. So that makes them to self sabotage. That makes them to have a very low self esteem, but it's covered with a facade that everything is fine, because we always have to come out with a look. And especially in Africa, we can't complain. We just have to be strong for everyone else. And you have to be a mom, you have to be a wife, you have to be a sister, you have to be a friend, you have to be a good neighbor, you have to be a good auntie. So you are wearing a lot of hats for so many people. So the major challenge that happens is that at some point when you doubt yourself, you don't know who to tell, you don't know who to talk to, you're ashamed, you don't have the right answers, but you just pretend like everything is going well because you don't want to be laughed at. And another problem we have is even within us women, we kind of beat ourselves down instead of us to kind of empower each other. So that one is also there. And women are scared of being judged and being seen as weak. And we are the most resilient people. By our nature, we are so resilient. By our nature, we are so proactive. We are powerful. We can do so many things. We can juggle so many things, that some men cannot do. I feel it's not a matter of comparison. It's just a matter of different capabilities that women have. And inadvertently, we are just trying to solve so many problems, quench so many fires. But ourselves, we suffer inadvertently because of it. When a woman, for example, is in an abusive relationship because she has a low self-esteem, she's thinking when she's thinking maybe she deserves this, or maybe she called this on herself, or maybe this person is really sorry when they say they're sorry. So I feel the greatest gift a woman should have is the sense of, who am I? Who you are. My brother is the one that actually gave me this wonderful advice when I had a mental breakdown. I said I used to have those. So because I was a mom at 19 to 3 siblings, I became a mom at 24, now to 5 siblings. I adopted 2 kids along the way. So right now I see myself as a mom to 9 children, 4 biological children, 2 adopted kids, and 3 younger siblings who are now men and women of their own with their families. But I'm always in a sense of, whenever they call me, I'm thinking they want to tell me something for me to help them to solve their problems, because that is how it's been for me. So I think women now should learn to tell other people what they are going through. Don't just keep it all in. When you suffer self insecurity, self confidence, don't be ashamed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Don't be scared to be vulnerable. Invulnerability is your greatest strength. When you are able to tell somebody that thing that hurts you the most, if it's somebody you can trust, it's like a huge weight off of your shoulders, and it really relaxes you. you know I think that's part of it. Yeah. Can you hear me? I
I
can't
can
hear
hear you. I can
you.
hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear? Okay,
I had
yeah.
muted myself. It's all good. So,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
then I just love the fact that you know, you're talking about such an important message, right? And you know, sometimes we forget that we're human. You know, we just forget that we're human, and we almost want to be Superman, Superwoman, whatever
Mhm.
term we want
Yeah.
to be.
Mm.
But I think there's something about vulnerability. You know, Avita is commenting here, and hi, Avita, nice to
Yeah,
see you.
so many comments. I've not read
Yeah.
them.
Lots of great comments, but vulnerability is our greatest strength. And so, hey, folks, if you've got a question and you're following along Facebook Live or on the Zoom webinar, just pop it in the chat window. We'll make sure we ask it. And so, right now, Mounfiq, what would you say your biggest challenge is right now? Because you've come a long way, but one thing about coming a long way is
Yeah.
the challenges get bigger sometimes,
Yeah.
don't they? Sometimes I remember I used to think, oh, one day I'll have a problem-free existence,
No.
but what I discovered is the challenges just get greater,
Yeah.
and yet we get stronger along the way. So what are some of your challenges right now?
My biggest challenge is being in a new country and you don't have help at all. I think for mothers here, and now I see why a lot of mothers here suffer. And my 12-year-old just became a babysitter for the first time. She has her certificate, so she's babysitting now. And I know what a big relief that it is for the mother of the child that she's babysitting. So it really helps. No assistance here at all. So my kids have to be up and doing. They have to make sure they go to their jobs. They just started working too. They go to their jobs. They do their task and everything. So my biggest challenge is just trying to make sure I juggle my business, my two businesses, my coaching business, my entrepreneurial business as a frozen seafood exporter to Africa, and also juggle my role as a mom. In Nigeria, it's a bit easier. You could get somebody to okay, do this particular task for me, then I do this other one. But here you have to do it all by yourself. And I'm doing it. I'm also trying to improve my network. I'm trying to get new clients. I'm trying to get new clients for two new businesses, in a new country where I don't know anybody. My whole neighborhood, I'm the only Black person here, so also trying to find a community of like-minded people and improve my network. I think that is the biggest challenge. But because I don't see limits and I don't see challenges, I look at them as an opportunity for growth. I try to combat them day in, day out. What I do is I look at it one day at a time. I've
Love it.
stopped looking at things like, oh, I'll do this in 2 weeks, so I'll do it. You just have to take one thing at a time, finish it, then go for the next thing. So that is really how I'm trying to resolve that. Yeah,
One day at a time. I mean, it sounds like a pretty important recipe, right?
it's very
Um,
important. Yeah.
and I just love your own vulnerability. I mean, trying to find a community in a new country.
Mm-hmm.
My wife also is an immigrant to Canada, and watching her journey. Of course, she had already come to Canada before we started dating, but it's just been interesting to see. I don't think people realize, that no matter how nice a country may be or how welcoming, that it's still a big challenge, right? To go from one culture, one language, one system of law and government and banking and all of it to the next.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a big shift. So
Yeah.
tell me, what are some of your success habits? I mean, obviously you've figured a few things out.
Yeah.
So share some of those with us, because I think it'd be great to hear.
Yes. The first thing I seek in every situation is clarity. I feel each individual, whatever you're going through in your life, seek clarity. It's easier to cope with when you are clear. When you are not making any mistakes, and you will make mistakes, that is inevitable. But you need to be clear on your goals. And how I seek clarity is I do a lot of meditation. Meditation helps to ground me. It stills my mind. It helps me to see things beyond how it helps me to see the depth of something. Every day in the morning I have a routine is so important. I need just a little thing, that making my bed. If I don't make my bed in the morning, it seems like I didn't do something. I have to, me and my husband sometimes need to take my son to work now. He starts work 5 a.m. in the morning, and we maybe leave the house at 4:30 to take him to work because he just has a learner's permit. So with that, you'll think 4:30 a.m. If I don't make my bed, I can't actually start my day. I can't just leave. So certain routines like making your bed in the morning, And meditation is so crucial. It grounds me. Exercise is wonderful. What it does for the body, I've never really done exercise to lose weight or anything. I don't weigh myself. I don't know anything about that. I don't bother with that. I just try to eat right. But I like the feeling I have after I exercise. Just 15 minutes on the treadmill in the morning, it does magic for me. So those, and that is for the success habits that helps to ground my mind, helps to keep me still. So another success habit that I have is that I like to break down stuff. If something is difficult, I want to look at the difficult thing first, then I do the easier things later. I don't see difficulty, I try to break it in bits. How do you kind of make this thing a bit easier for you to deal with? So you take one, like that one thing at a time. If COVID has taught us nothing, it has taught us that everything in life is in stages and it's one thing at a time. There's this professor called Sri Kumar Rao, and he says something. He says, human beings don't really have control. We just have an illusion of control. You think you're in control of your life. You think everything is exactly how you want it to be. I don't think that's an illusion. You need to take one thing at a time and focus on the process, not the outcome. The outcome is something big. You want to do something big, but there are little things that leads up to that outcome. So it's important to focus on the process.
I just love that, and I think that it's really important for people to put that into context, that there's certain things you can control, there's
Mm-hmm.
other things that you can't control. What
Yeah.
I find, and I love how you talked about it, because I've been a fan of the daily routine for literally for decades, and have practiced it and I've taught it all over the world. And what I find is that daily routine in the morning really helps me to reset my mind. It
Mm-hmm.
helps me to focus on the things I can control today versus the things I can't. I mean, hey, I'd love to wave a magic wand to change my kids, change my bank account, change the government, change the world. I can't do that, So what do I got? Well, I love the idea of well, change yourself first, I think if people spent as much time, working on their self-care and
Yeah.
changing themselves as they do on social media,
Mhm.
complaining about everyone else, I just think that we would start to see a different world. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I totally agree. As Gandhi says, be the change you want to see. Any
Yeah.
change you want, you need to start with yourself. The change starts with you. I strongly believe that the outcome changes when you change. Even when you have a negative person in your life, avoid toxic people is so important. But when you find a situation where that toxic person is right within your, just where you are, and you can't avoid that person at that point, change your reaction to the person. Don't be reactive, be proactive. When you see a situation, don't think about how huge the situation is. Think about how huge your mind is, because your mind can overcome any situation if you tell your mind that you can do it. And this poem I love so much. My father is actually the person that got me into motivation and inspiration when I was 15 years old, and he gave me this poem, this book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And there's this poem in that book, and I would just like to be allowed to just read an excerpt of the book because it's so transformational for me. It said, I bargained with life for a penny, and life could pay no more. And I've forgotten this poem. I bargained with life for a penny, and life could pay no more. However, I begged that evening when I checked my scanty store. For life is a just employer. It gives you what you ask. But when you have set your wages, then you must bear the task. I asked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid.
Awesome. Love it. Well, I can see why you've come so far, and it's about that mindset, and it's about that
Everything.
mindset, but following it up with hard work and
Action.
effort. and
Resilient.
good routines, you know. So what what are I mean, obviously COVID has impacted your life, and I'm sure even your business.
Mm.
What are some of the things in your, I mean, I know your coaching business really is taking off. I think you're doing great things, and I'm your coach, and so that
Yeah,
gives me a unique perspective to kind of watch how
yeah.
amazing you're doing, and congrats to you,
Thank
Mounfiq. You're
you.
doing awesome. So what are
Thank
some of the things that have been working well for you, right? And I think this is helpful because no matter what kind of business people are operating today, I think there's some principles that you've been able to employ that have helped you. So what's working for you?
Wow. The principles that I focus on, first of all, is I have just three key principles that I focus on. And I talk about it a lot in my coaching sessions with my clients, and I have some information about that in my website. I feel there are three ingredients that determine success for everybody. A growth mindset, which I represent with M, because my brand is MRA, which is coincidentally my first, my middle, and my last name, Mounfiq Abu. But it's just a coincidence because when I thought of these three things, it's usually when I'm meditating or when I'm in prayer, these thoughts come to me and I see that they actually work. And if consistently practiced, they are effective for everyone. So the first formula for success for me is having the growth mindset. M, having resilience, knowing that life is hard. Some people just, they stop when they're about to make it because it gets tougher as you go ahead, as you've just said, Abe. It gets tougher as you go ahead. It never gets easier. I'm telling my kids, every moment with my kids is a teachable moment. And whatever they're doing, if they just make a kind of comment that seems like they're going to give up, that is when I kind of hit hard right there. Because I feel as you get older, it gets tougher. Because tough situations don't last, but actually tough people do. So you need resilience is a key fundamental principle to success. Resilience. And the last one is action. The thing I've realized in the coaching industry, because I've been doing it for 14 years, and I'm so happy with the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise coaching program. It's helped me to have a better structure of where I want to go as a coach. I've been able to now be able to be more clear on the vision of what I want to do and how to put my business in the right perspective. What I notice in coaching is that a lot of people know what to do. They already have the philosophies, they have the ideas, they just don't have the right strategies. And even when they do, they don't take action. People give up easily. They take the first step, they don't move to the next step, or they take the first step, they don't do a follow-up to it. So action, mindset, resilience, and action, these are
Love
the
it.
three things I practice every single day, and they work.
I can't tell you how much I love what you're saying, and you've demonstrated it. It's not just a theory to you. It's not just academic. It's not just something you've heard.
Mm.
And I think that most of us who have succeeded, I don't actually know anyone who was just handed success, and didn't experience any hardship, didn't experience any adversity. They've all had to take that on the way you're talking about, and so well done. So what are you, I guess, just a couple minutes left here. What are you most looking forward to? I mean, a lot of us, through COVID-19, it's been tough on people. So what are you thinking about? What are you looking forward to? What's exciting you right now?
Yeah, what is exciting me most about COVID is that it has given me time to be able to maximize my time. When you don't need to, especially when the lockdown was severe, that we couldn't really go to certain places at all, then you now have more time because you're not going to these places. So you need to use the time to create something positive or create something useful for yourself. So the greatest gift of this time for me has been the gift of introspection, the gift of innovativeness, the gift of creativity, reinvention. You understand? So for my coaching business, I've done so much more work at this time than I ever did. That's when I actually started the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise coaching program. If not for COVID, I may not have had the time, because juggling all these kids, my husband, the family, the work, it's a lot. But I was now able to create time for myself to develop myself even more than I already am, because I think learning should be an ongoing concern from cradle to the day you die. I think learning should be something that, so the COVID has given me the gift of reinventing myself, innovation, being more creative, and giving me more insight and introspection for my business. Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. Well,
Yeah.
Mounfiq, I'm so grateful that you've taken some time here today to share
Thank you.
with our folks, our viewers, and any final nuggets of wisdom that you could share. Just from the heart for
Yeah.
anyone watching, tuning in today.
Mm. I would like to tell everybody that failure is a lesson. When you fail, is an opportunity to rise. It's just a speed bump on your way to success. Always see failure as an opportunity to learn, an opportunity to rise to the occasion, to also know your infinite potential. Because if you don't see a difficult situation, something new about you does not surface. So I would say life is not a bed of roses. Anybody that told you that was joking.
Yeah.
I thought life was hard in Nigeria. In here, it also has its difficulties as well. So life is not a bed of roses anywhere you go. So, but when you go through failure, don't beat yourself up. Just try to look at it as a lesson and an opportunity to grow. Yeah, that's what I would say.
That's so good, Mounfiq, and I love what you're saying, because we've all made mistakes, and perhaps one of the worst things you can do is just beat yourself up. I mean, there's actually no good. I mean, hey, I'd be all for it if it would help, but it doesn't actually make you a better person. It
Yeah.
doesn't help you perform at a better level. So,
Mhm.
as we kind of close here today. Some of you might be wondering, and we'll give Mounfiq an opportunity in just a moment to share how you can get a hold of her. But one of the things that I think we're all aware of, no matter what your position is on COVID, no matter how you're feeling about the lockdown, and frankly, no matter what country in the world you're in, because we've had guests on this show from literally all over the world, and of course, my clients are on 4 different continents, and that's given me a nice perspective. And one of the things that's so clear is that in the midst of chaos, Sun Tzu said, in the midst of chaos, there is opportunity, right? And I
Yeah.
love what Sun Tzu said. He said, opportunities multiply
Mm.
as they are seized, right? So,
Mm. So true.
opportunity comes to us all.
Yeah.
It might not be gift wrapped like an opportunity. It might be gift wrapped like COVID. It
Yeah.
might be gift wrapped like a lockdown. But
Mm-hmm.
let's just be straight up. Let's just be honest. It
Mm-hmm.
can actually be an opportunity underneath all of that.
Yeah.
And so, what needs to happen is you have got
Mm-hmm.
to seize it. You've got to take advantage of it. And I think one of the things I really want to encourage each of you to do as a next step is to consider hopping on a support call. And I know many of you have been inspired today listening to Mounfiq. And I'll tell you what, for all of you who registered for this webinar, if you'd like to get a support call with Mounfiq,
Yeah.
I'm going to make that available to you.
I would love
Sorry, Mounfiq,
that for
I didn't even
everyone.
talk to her about this, but
No
if,
problem. I don't mind at all.
yeah, and that's what I love about you, your spirit. She's saying she doesn't mind. So, there's an email that'll come out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if you watch this webinar and you're like, yeah, I want to actually let the chat with Mounfiq, then just reply to that email. It'll come to me. And then I promise you, I'll forward it right to Mounfiq, because, we work together on a regular basis, and I want to support you and I want to support her. And so please do reach out, and you might say, well, what's a support call? Well, number one, it's about support. It's just, hey, how are you doing? What's
Mm.
going on in your life? What's
Mm.
going on with your business? But it's also a strategy call. It's an
Mm.
opportunity to start to talk about how you can move forward. And so please do consider that. If you're watching on Facebook Live, even if you put that in the comments, I'm sure I'll see it, or Cynthia or Mounfiq, and
Mm.
we'll reach out, because we really want to be there for you. Now next week we've got another guest, and I love the international flavor of these webinars. I'll tell you what, A lot of people talk about diversity. I'll tell you, we practice it here at Momentum Coaching. We have practiced it for well over a decade. And that's because we learn so much from our differences. We learn so much from different mindsets, different perspectives. I've learned from you today, Mounfiq, and I'm so
Thank
grateful
you.
that you've come into my life. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
So next week we have a fellow African, Mounfiq. This
Wow.
is his name is Bassam Henry, and he's from Egypt.
Oh,
And he actually lives in Cairo. As you can probably tell from his picture, he's an Egyptian man. And
wow.
actually, he and I met when he flew to San Francisco to meet with me and to
Mm,
take some certified coach training that I was offering with the Certified Coaches Federation, which is the #1
mm,
coach training and certification organization in the world. And
yeah.
so he flew to San Francisco from Cairo. We
Wow.
got to meet, but this guy, I want you to check this out. Look at his client list. These are the folks that this guy works with in Cairo. They run a training company called 360-Degree Experiential Learning Solutions. And he's got everyone as his client, from Coca-Cola to Huawei to Carrefour to EMC Squared. I mean, you can see both youth organizations, NGOs, and for-profit, Toyota, Total. So this guy has worked with everybody. And so he's going to be on our webinar next week, and we know you're going to enjoy it. And again, for all of you who are frontline workers there out there today, we want you to know how grateful we are for all that you do. And Mounfiq, if someone
Yeah.
wanted to get in touch with you directly,
Yeah.
they can do this support call I'm saying.
Yeah.
But you also have put your email address in the chat window. So why don't you just tell us that? And
Okay.
that'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. You can contact me directly on Mounfiq. The name is spelled Mounfiq. Mounfiq at mounfiqrayanabu.com.
Awesome. Love it.
Ryan Abu, Mounfiq at mounfiqrayanabu.com. And the website is www.mounfiqrayanabu.com.
That's so
Yeah,
good. So, folks, do reach out to Mounfiq. And
I'll be
like I
happy to
mentioned,
get
she's a
you.
great coach. She can connect you with a health, wealth, and wise coaching program. She can do a lot for you.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much. And we'll catch everybody next Thursday at
Thank you.
11:45
All
a.m.
right.
Take
Okay.
care.
Bye.
Bye
Thank
now.
you.
Thanks, Mounfiq.
Thank you.